What's going on, everybody? Welcome to your daily astrology horoscope for Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. Astrologer Brian Scarborough here, Fixed Air Moon, keeping the collective fixed on astrology. I appreciate you all very much, as always. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. And welcome to Tuesday. It's loaded, loaded, loaded. G-Eazy song, loaded. And it's loaded because, of course, this is the exact third square between Mars and Neptune. Been talking quite a bit about that for a long time now, since we've already seen two of them, of course, with this Mars retrograde that we did experience in Gemini, and this is that final one. It's an extreme feeling of quicksand, and it's very mental in these signs too, mental and emotional. And there's so much about the subconscious that's playing into everything we identify with, and it's so difficult to find just exact truths. So we have to be very careful with what we're taking in right now. We can build an identity to certain aspects that are really not even close to ours, but they're almost like subconscious traps. That's kind of the theme. We're seeing a Sun-Neptune conjunction over the next day and a half. Big deal, annual conjunction. Great for, exploring the unconscious realms, but only if we're willing to go there. We can often escape that place by just trying to escape in some kind of a detrimental way, some kind of a habitual subconscious pattern or habit or something that we loop over and over again without even really realizing it. So that's where this is a difficult time, is because we're doing things that are not even close to our actual self-identification of truth. However, we have no idea that we're doing it for the most part. Some of us do. Even I feel like the most conscious people are having, questions about the day-to-day, their minds, how they're thinking about the world, how they're thinking about their environments, how they're reacting to environments, what we're doing. So it's just very interesting. I feel like today meditation would definitely, it's a great tool we have, but I need to get back into that practice more and more. And maybe this is something that'll, be a catalyst for me, because I'm looking at this like there's no way we're going to consciously understand what we need to understand, because it's so deep in the subconscious. It's almost like we need to all go into some like hypno trance to understand what it is we're doing. And maybe just sitting with ourselves, we can come to some kind of a conclusion about how to break patterns. What makes it even more difficult is I ran this chart for 7:08 p.m. on the West Coast. And the reason for doing so is because the moon will be at 2413 Sag, which will be that exact square to the sun for that waning third quarter square, which is closing out this Piscean, lunation that we're in right now. And that's the thing about the the waning third quarter square, is like it's really trying to close a chapter. It's really trying to responsibly handle situations that need to be released, that need to be more, unconscious, subconsciously understood, especially in Sagittarius, this desire emotionally for expansion and freedom and to take in information. But this moon's also at the very same time going to be making its opposition to Mars in Gemini. So really weird odds right now. Like, we can fight ourselves mentally so much. That's why I think any kind of like way to tune out is going to actually be the most beneficial thing, because we can try and push so hard right now and identify for all sorts of different things that we think is our truth, and it's not. There's like a higher purpose. There's something more spiritually aligned, and we're actually escaping that alignment by doing this thing that we are so, I know this is it. This is my truth. Is it? So we have to, all figure out some way in our life to get past the ego's identification so that we can get into the truth, the real truth of loops, because that's Pisces, the fish, right? These loops, it's like karma, right? It always what goes around comes around, but we can like go around and come around so many times before we consciously learn. And this might be an expedited way of getting us to that point of learning, but it can feel like an absolute circus in the world, in our personal lives. And it's not like we can bypass this stuff. I mean, I don't feel like it's a day where we can just ignore information or the truth, but boy, do we have to be conscious of how we're reacting to it, what we, want to get so in a just dogmatic belief system of this is a truth, this is real, this is what it is. Do any of us have any clue right now? That's the hard part. And Mercury at 21 degrees coming to 22 degrees of Pisces is very interesting too, because like look at Mercury here. Minus 14. Mercury's getting wrecked. And not only that, but it's working on its square over to Mars, which is the dispositor of that Mars in Gemini, and it's a falled Mercury in Pisces. So, we can want to bark all we want and be noisy, or our mind can just be noisy in our own head. But what's the noise all about? And how do we get out of this? It's like we really have to think about everything sort of differently in a more Piscean way, but not like by escaping it, just by getting into that more intuitive side of our mind, which can be very difficult because we've all been trained that it's the analytical mind is the way to go, right? I think, just over the past couple years, the best way to describe that, and I'm not trying to shame or anything here, but it's like trust the science, right? Trust that. This analytical way of understanding everything in this reality. Like, that's just an example, right? So we're having to go more abstract while still being present and thinking, and it's just such a snafu because we're all having some kind of an issue with something that we're not willing to let go of. And that's even this South Node here in Scorpio. Like, we're all trying to hold on to something we've become so emotionally attached to that likely has something to do with our mind here and the way that we think consciously. So we'd have to figure out how to find some kind of a balance point here of being conscious, but being in our unconscious and being in that sweet spot so that we can consciously shift unconscious beliefs and patterns and cycles and things that we do day in, day out in our environments, the way we express ourselves. Very it brings challenges. I'll be honest, today does have some challenges, but you know what, I'll say that too when the day does start, because this chart's run for later in the evening, that the moon will be making good aspects early in the morning with a trine over to Chiron, a trine over to Jupiter. I mean, we can definitely wake up feeling positive, but it's almost like it's that positivity that is our wound. It's almost like that we don't want to see. We're so caught up in a ideal or in just a vision or belief of what is true or what is, the everything in our life. What is the identification? Who are we? That just brings up like having to use our emotions to go farther while still staying here in the present. And that's hard enough in itself. Also, after the third quarter square and coming into tomorrow morning, we're going to see the moon trine over to Venus in Aries too, which again, like there are like good backups for this, but it's still so, we can just feel very lost, and that can cause mental anxieties. People could be feeling depressed. They could be feeling like they're not getting the reality that they want today. And I think that, again, there is positives. Like the moon's going to be in the galactic center of Sagittarius when it trines Venus. It's just like there's a higher way of looking at everything we build relationships to, everything that we're trying to achieve, to acquire, what brings us pleasure, what brings us quality of life. There's just new ways to look at it. And even with Uranus at 16 degrees now, finally coming off that 15 degree mark, it's conjunct where we had the lunar eclipse in Taurus. So it's crossing over that point where we had that 16 degree lunar eclipse. And again, it's bringing up our fears of the quality of life we can have if we break the structure of what we become so rigid that reality is, if that makes any sense. like this newer way of finding security, this more connected way to see how all things play into our life and how we can use that to build quality and to not let it be some kind of a detriment or some kind of a, I mean, honestly, this chart feels very stalemated. Like, gosh, I want to have better. I want to do more. I want to achieve more. I want to feel safer, but I'm at a stalemate because of the way my mind is working right now. And I don't feel, there's not a lot of, there's like a little bit of motivation in the chart, but at the same time, there's not. And we're trying to like figure out how to make things real. And we're getting like antsy with all the planets direct and trying to go forward. So yeah, it is a very interesting day. And of course, Venus is applying that square over to Pluto for the last time that we'll ever see, with Venus in Aries and Pluto in Capricorn. I did look ahead because of that Venus retrograde. It won't be until April 30th that we see another square in this quadrant of the zodiac, but it'll be Venus in Taurus and Pluto in Aquarius at 2 degrees. So I do just want to say that we're all being tested with our own fears of security that we've become so attached to, that we're definitely all meant to break down and re-evolve at this moment. And gosh, we'd have to be okay with this. We have to find security in the now. We have to know that we're strong and powerful, even though unpredictable things are going to be taking place. Of course, there was the Silicon Valley Bank situation that's just happened, which was kind of like a Lehman Brothers event back in 2008, which was Pluto coming into Capricorn. Now Pluto leaving. Are we going to see more banks fail? Very, very possible, right? Very possible. So just the financial structures right now are getting re-identified. What is that going to be? What is the value of life? Is it that? Is it something else? Does it have anything to do with that in sense of monetary value? Or is it just value of self, and that will attract quality and value in exactly the way it's meant to, matched upon a frequency, which Pluto in Aquarius is going to be all about. The frequency of your soul will connect you to everything that'll take you into your future. But it's changing from such a structured, systematic approach that we're also used to, and we're also ingrained with. Like, we all have a south node of Pluto, of Saturn, and majority of us a south node of Jupiter also in Capricorn, planetary nodes. So like, we are all so indebted to a system, right? And we're at a major breakaway. And I think that this is the kind of chart, and this is the kind of astrology and a kind of mutable T-square on a waning third quarter square between the sun and the moon, and with Neptune, that is trying to show you that your consciousness is ready to evolve. It's ready to mutate and go to something more valuable, but it's not what your mind has been trained to think. And that is where it's difficult, because it's not going to make sense. And life might not make sense right now. And we got to be okay with that. That's the difficult part. But it's definitely something that's going to give us more quality of life, more quality spiritually, emotionally, physically. It's just not going to be what you thought quality was. It's going to be much more connected, more interpersonal, more personal. So yeah, very, very interesting. Very interesting day this Tuesday. So I hope you're doing well. If your mind is driving you crazy, please turn that thing off, because you're not gonna get anywhere. And I hate to say that. You will drive yourself insane. This chart has like insanity written all over it. So somehow we got to like not worry and just, that's like Sun Neptune, like water off a duck's back. Eh, eh, everything's fine. And things might not be fine, but we have to, accept that they will be, because we're going to figure out these loops we're in. And we're very receptive to how to figure out where things are going. It just takes time for the emotion to synthesize the information, where the mind wants it now, like electricity. Turn a light switch on, it's on, boom. It doesn't necessarily work that way with water. It's like a wave has to travel to the shore, right? And that takes time. It doesn't just show up on shore. So there's a lot of waves right now that are pushing everything to you that you need. It's just you got to wait for the right set and know when it comes how to react to that without needing it right now. And I know that that's difficult because we all probably want it right now. All right, what do we get? We got the 8 of Swords in reverse. Yeah, to tune your mind out. Your mind is your prison right now, to be completely honest with you. So just forget about everything and how it has to make sense, or how it has to be expressed, or all these little things that make us feel stuck, tied up, anxious. Like, just today, chill the mind out. You'll be fine. Everything is going to show up as it's needed. Don't worry so much. Stay in your mind. You're going to feel like you're in a prison. And the Emperor, I would say that this is very accurate, because there's a whole new way of finding our empowerment, the way we delegate life, the way we initiate to make it happen, the way we get on our throne and show the universe that we are in control of ourselves. It's just not a mental game. It's a much more instinctual game right now that will get you where you need to go to put everything in place. And the Knight of Rods, the Knight of Wands, in reverse. It's, don't feel like you have to do it right now. Don't feel like everything has to be pushed forward in such an intense way that right this moment. Let things come to you. When they come, you'll instinctually know. Nothing has to be so forced. You'll find your empowerment through the receptivity to act when you feel like you need to, not by trying to mentally crack some impossible code. Like, life is Da Vinci's code right now. Don't go trying to crack Da Vinci's code and think that you're the smartest person on the planet. You'll probably regret thinking that, and that'll be part of the release point that we have to go through at some point during these times, that we're like, oh snap, I didn't know. Do any of us know where the world's going? Definitely up for debate. I'm not going to sit here and act like I do. I don't, but it's going somewhere different. I can tell you that much. So you don't have to force life right now. Let life come to you. Be receptive. Tune out logic so that you can get wisdom. All right? I love you all very much. I hope you have a beautiful Tuesday, and I will see you all tomorrow. Much love. Peace.